to the bold analysis. Raila Odinga was in Murang'a today, and I followed that event keenly. I want to put to a very interesting perspective because remember, it was just a day before the highly contentious burial of the widow of the surviving widow of the only surviving widow of Dedan Kimathi, Mukami Kimathi, in Nyandarua. I followed the speeches to pay attention to the message that Odinga was going to tell the residents of Murang'a, and it was also he was also there to mourn, to condole with the family of Mwangi Iria, because the woman who had died was actually the mother-in-law to Mwangi Iria. I paid close attention, and if you look at those photos, that is the video on his arrival. And when he arrived there, amongst other leaders, I saw the presence of Caroline Karogo, the former Nyeri DG, who in the last general election was actually deputy chief agent to Raila Odinga, and also some of the members that were part of Raila Odinga's campaign team from the larger Mount Kenya region. And when he went there, they had some very good critical message. But then I just got some information when I was following the speeches. Some gentleman was saying that when in 1996, son to Mukami Kimathi, the grandson, wanted to go and study engineering somewhere, and Raila informed him that he should take political science, and actually took him to India to study. So he studied political science, and then came back and worked under the former South African president, Nelson Mandela Foundation, and at one point then he lost his life. Apart from that, when this widow, the late Mukami, met Raila Odinga last year, before the next general election, to bless Raila, there was a request put about giving him a house, for her to get a house. A week before she passed on, that house was already made, and it had been renovated. It was due for them to occupy. So I got that. But then that is just a bit of part of what I grasped from the speeches. Now, Mwangi Iria is telling Rigathi Gachagua something that I want us to listen. And I believe this is the kind of message that probably is needed at this time when there would be presence of leaders across the political divide that is trying to counter anti-Raila venom, because he's saying Rigathi is on a dangerous path of setting tribes against each other.
Na ukitaka taifa ianguke, leta uhasama wa ukabila. Watoto wetu sisi kama Wakikuyu wanafanya biashara Kisumu, wanafanya Kapenguria, wanafanya popote. Wakiwa huko hawaishi na sisi hapa, wanaishi na wengine. Urafiki kati yetu na makabila 43 hata huko kwa Biblia. Kwa sababu kukiwa na uhasama, sisi hasa Wakikuyu ndio tutaumia zaidi. Sisi ni wengi na sisi huwa kila mahali tukijitafutia. Kwa hivyo ningeomba wanasiasa tuhubiri umoja wa taifa, na hasa kutoka kwa nchi ya Wakikuyu, kwa sababu shida ikipotea, wale wakumia kwanza ni sisi. Kwa hivyo wale ambao wanahubiri siasa za ukabila kati ya Wakikuyu na Wajaluo waende kanisa. Hiyo uhasama sisi hatutaki. Wakalejini ni marafiki zetu, Wabaluya ni marafiki zetu, Wajaluo na kila kabila.
Now that speech was very powerful and was simply saying, and I totally take it, that we cannot afford to set up tribes against each other. At least we have lessons enough. We have learned our lessons as a country. And that should not be the direction. And I believe this message was also likely what Raila was also speaking about. In a clear swipe at Mau Mau masqueraders, those masquerading as Mau Mau, Odinga seems to be vouching for the position of Jomo Kenyatta and in the quest for the independence of the country. And remember, this debate about the Mau Mau is something that has technically is now the current wave being used to wipe the region's emotions and galvanize the youth around these other juvenile politicians. We are sons of Mau Mau. And I think Raila seems to be putting it clear that it is about the interest of the country.
Jaramogi akaenda huko kwa bunge akapiga mkombora huko, akasema ati Mau Mau walikuwa ni watu ambao walikuwa wanataka kukomboa nchi yetu, na akasema Kenyatta ndiyo kiongozi wetu. Baadaye sasa kaanza Uhuru na Kenyatta, Uhuru kapatikana. Kwa hivyo urafiki kati ya Wakikuyu na Wajaluo ilitoka zamani mpaka sasa. Tumesema sisi hatutaki kuwa na siasa ya ukabila katika taifa letu. Mimi nikisimama hapa nasimama kama Mkenya, na mimi ningependa kuona kama Wakenya wote wanaungana wanakuwa kama kitu kimoja. So.
Raila's message and the Raila's message for the Murang'a, he was speaking in Mount Kenya, and of course people are paying attention to what will be. It is not a coincidence on the kind of language, or rather choosing the narrative about unity or the need to end tribal animosity. It is not a coincidence because if you've been following political developments since the committee was set up since the death of Mukami, you have seen it becoming a battlefield. And recently during a sermon that was there, you could see the way political persuasion was at the center of everything going on, even in terms of preparation. And to some group of politicians, they have actually taken it as an opportunity to politic and galvanize support. So Raila message on end of tribal animosity and ethnic profiling is an angle that will counter the tribal extremists who are using the tribal hate messages to consolidate a political base for their own selfish personal interest. So this is something that here, but I want to look at it differently. Mukami Kimadhi's exit, and being that she's also one who the husband played an integral role, one of the most integral roles in clamor for independence, should actually usher sober patriotism discussion, because our politics for quite so long, after our ancestors fought for the independence of the country, we remained with a shell of emotional politics that have continued to divide us across the decades. So I believe that probably it's a time to have a different approach for it. For those who have been planning, and for us to understand that the tribal animosity, the madness about creating a rift between tribe A to tribe B, simply because if I organize and I consolidate along this tribe A and tribe B, I can easily get power, ascend to power. I think the country should evolve from that. The person who is coordinating from the national government is Raymond Omolo, who comes from Homa Bay. The burial is... So we must understand how things, that we cannot afford to take a discussion about creating rifts. During the clamor and fighting for the soul of this country from the whites, we were united, and the stories told about how Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and Kenyatta Union was monumental and significant to the independence of the country. No Kenyatta, no Uhuru. So that kind of, and you can look at what happened immediately after they got what they wanted. They started fighting, and since they started fighting and parting ways, the country took that angle. The nation took that angle where we over the decades continued to plant tribal animosity. And I believe that at least those who mean well for the country should not reduce Mukami's burial is a national function, and it should not be reduced to a simple Mount Kenya supremacy battlefront. Soldiers who won, soldiers who fought for the country, our ancestors who fought for the soul of this country, they won because of a solid unity amidst all those betrayals. The story is told about how some conspired with the whites and could leak some sensitive information to where, our Mau Mau fighters were. So, and this discussion about Mau Mau, I think people need to understand that. Recently, I spoke with a Uber driver, and I think we were somewhere, and he told me that, Kevin, I come from Kitale. I am born by a mother from Kitale, a mother from Kitale, a father from Kitale, and a mother from Nyandarua. And he told me, the mother is from Nyandarua, father is from Kitale. He told me my great-grandfather was part and parcel of that. So for long, the story has been told as it was a simply Mount Kenya thing. The only thing here is, because mostly it was in the Aberdare, and that's where the forest was, and that's where there was the land. That is the land that these whites wanted because it was fertile land for farming. That's where there was a scramble for it. And that is why it has always been fighting for the land, because the whites wanted to take it. It's in the highland areas. But it is not true. It is not factual that the Mau Mau was only fought by a single tribe. Talk to people, you'll get that, by the way. You'll get back somewhere behind the scenes. So that's why I do believe that it's a state function. I'll be so much disappointed to hear of some young juvenile politicians planting seeds of heckling, shaming leader X, and, or even stopping person X from talking. We will not want to report those dramas, because that's not. We should actually have a sober discussion about the patriotism of the country. Reflect on how our independence was achieved through tough political aggression. And so, there are those who believe that when the opposition wing are doing mass action, then it is illegal, it is archaic, and it is, I don't know, it's unethical. But we are forgetting that the independence of this country was achieved through a tough political aggression. The second revolution, the second beat in 1992, when the country was fighting, looking for multi-party democracy, for Moi to cede ground for Section 2A to be amended, it came after a very protracted political aggression. And political aggression does not mean it for long has been demonized as those who are against the country. But this is what the Red of Mukami presents to us, that even kufukuza mzungu was a political aggression. And the country got what they wanted. We got our independence because of that. So this is also an opportunity to appreciate that, look here, political aggression is not people who are not interested in the country. Even when for some of the best things we've got in this country came after protracted war, fighting for the good. Let's keep off political antagonism and accommodate all leaders despite of political persuasion. That's it. I know for this there is a bit of organizations on how state, it's going to be led by President William Ruto. There is exactly no problem with that. That should be it anyway. But it should not be that anyone else whose political persuasion is not in conformity with the administration cannot comfortably be part of it. Because we've all agreed it's a state function. And all of us are in this country. When you see some political leaders from the Azimio wing attending, we should all accommodate. Let's not allow political persuasion to derail our reasoning thinking and collective responsibility. The unity that was shown by those who fought for the soul of this country is what this country needs best, most now. Even though Mr. Politician is looking for how he can consolidate vote for the next general election. Asanteni sana.